come back to you. But I wanted to start by thanking everybody for, again, joining us for this second day of the Halal Summit. This has been a wonderful event so far. And I'd like to thank all the speakers for also joining us, Mr. Awad, Mr. Ahmed, and Mr. Giyad for joining us to talk about halal financing today. But before I do that, I wanted to start by kicking off to Marwan. I believe he has a video for us, and then we'll get into the conversations. Marwan?
I'm blocked from sharing my screen because Dr. Gayat has his screen shared, obviously.
Really?
I'm blocked.
Okay. I don't even see his screen on my...
he needs to exit and re-enter.
Okay, Mr. Giyad, if you can hear me, can you exit and come back? Can you close out and come back?
Okay, now I can share my screen.
Yeah.
For 30 years, Amana mutual funds have provided halal investment vehicles serving the unique needs of the Muslim community. Discover how you can align your investments with your principles in a retirement, health, or education savings account, or invest for Hajj. To obtain this and other important information in a prospectus or summary prospectus, please visit www.amanafunds.com or call toll-free 1-800-732-6262. Please read the prospectus and consider an investment's objectives, risks, charges, and expenses carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. The Amana funds limit the securities they purchase to those consistent with Islamic principles. This limits opportunities and may affect performance.
All right, Marwan, thank you so much. Thank you for that video. Again, my name is Mamadou Samba, and I'm based in Washington, D.C. And as I said yesterday, I've taken on some great interest in the halal topic, halal industry the past 2 years, thanks to the first halal summit that Marwan invited me to participate in 2018. And so since then, this has become something that I'm very passionate about, and I'm glad to have everybody join us here. So we have 3 speakers today. Our first speaker is Abed Awad, and I'll let everybody introduce themselves, and then you can go to your presentation. Our second speaker is Rashid Ahmed, and the third one will be Giyad. So let's start with Abed. Just take maybe a couple of seconds, introduce yourself, and then we'll start our conversation around halal financing, halal investments, whether there are gimmicks, how would we know about legitimate halal investments and opportunities. So I'll kick it off to you. And then you have about 10 minutes, and let's try to stay within that 10 minutes so that at the end of your presentation, we'll have about 20 minutes for question and answers. And I will also say to our viewers, you don't have to wait until the panel is over to send your questions. Start sending us your question right now so that we can have a lively conversation with all of our speakers. Mr. Awad.
Thank you very much, Mamadou, for that very kind introduction. Assalamu alaikum wa salatu wa salam ala sadiq al-amin. My name is Abed Awad. I'm an attorney based in the New York, New Jersey area. And I'm an adjunct professor at law school, CEO and founder of ShariaWiz.com. ShariaWiz is a estate planning platform for Muslim Americans. It's an application. My area of expertise is, in addition to litigating family law and commercial cases in the U.S., I have a unique expertise in Islamic law, and I teach the subject matter at Rutgers Law School and at other law schools in the past. So that's my background. I've actually taught Islamic finance and banking as well. Should I go into my brief comments?
Yes, yes sir. Yes,
sir. The bottom line is that in my practice, when I look at Islamic law and I look at the halal space, I look at it as a lifestyle, a moral compass that guides you as a Muslim towards your interaction not only with the divine, but also your interaction with human beings. So I look at the Sharia as a epistemology, a methodology that produces knowledge. So the Sharia as this moral system that produces knowledge, you utilize these intellectual tools that are available in this epistemology to try to address modern questions and modern issues. So the approach that I took on Sharia Wiz, so we're going to talk about Islamic finance on the one hand, but also the relationship between Islamic finance and estate planning. So as Muslim Americans, if you go to any financial advisor, the first thing he's going to ask you is that you got to get your end of life and your disability issues taken care of. Do you have a will? Have you signed your healthcare directive or medical proxy? Do you have a general power of attorney? An estate plan is composed of these three primary documents: a will, a healthcare directive, and a general power of attorney. Sharia Wiz created a Sharia compliant estate plan, an Islamic will that's Sharia compliant, a healthcare directive that's Sharia compliant. So this is kind of like the building blocks of Islamic finance that you got to get your issues in order. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Our approach relating to the Islamic will is not your traditional template approach of what is required in an Islamic will. That in our template, you are asked certain questions and you're able to customize your Islamic will. And it has a lot of Sharia solutions for gender issues relating to your wife's entitlement under Sharia. There are three solutions that we provide for you to be able to protect the needs and security of your spouse. I suggest just read viewers to go to shariawiz.com and you'll see a lot of these explanations on the landing page and you could just experience it. Now on the issue.
Could you give us a specific example of that? Could you give us a specific example?
For example, under Islamic law, if you are married and you have children, your wife's entitlement is 1/8 of the estate. Under U.S. law, depending on the jurisdiction, whether it's a community property state or it's an equitable distribution state, your wife can be entitled to anywhere from 30-40% up to 50% of your estate. So if you disinherit your wife or you provide her less than what her default state entitlement is, one, your will can be set aside and your wife can make an elective share or take her community property. Number two, many Muslim couples that would come to my office and they would say, we want you to prepare an estate plan for us, Mr. Awad. No problem. Do you want a Sharia compliant plan or do you want a secular plan? Oh, no, we want a Sharia compliant plan. Once we sit down and get into the details and the wife realizes she's going to receive 1/8 of the estate when she's married for 20 years, she has a reluctance. They start getting conflicted about their religious faith, conflicted about the fairness of the Sharia. So there's all of these issues that happen. So many end up opting out of a Sharia compliant will because of the misperception that there are no Islamic solutions to some of these issues. Because Islamic law and the Sharia is not black and white. It's a system, it's a methodology, it's a process that produces knowledge. And our scholars had solutions for this, not only in modern time right now, but even in previous times. So an example would be, under Islamic law, during marriage, you are entitled to increase your mahr obligation, your postponed mahr obligation, mu'akhar as-sadaq, if you do it voluntarily by consent. So what happens is that the mahr is considered a debt against the estate. So usually when a husband passes away, a wife receives her mahr plus 1/8 of the estate. So in this particular circumstance, in my circumstance, in many circumstances, we increase our mahr to give the marital residence to your wife. That's normal. That's standard. So that's outside of the scope of the estate. It goes directly as a debt against the estate. Plus, the wife gets her 1/8. This is just one solution. I provide other solutions as well.
Okay, so is that solution an example of cases where this is combined, the Sharia and the traditional will be combined? Because there's a question that asks, can you combine Sharia in the traditional world? Was the example you just gave an example of that, or if not, then can you?
Oh no, of course. What we do is that the Sharia Wiz estate plan is state specific and Sharia compliant. So these are solutions that are options. So you are provided this option. You're provided another option. For example, under the Sharia, the scholars, specifically in the Maliki school, had created a concept called al-kad wa si'aya, which basically provides from the 7th century, Umar ibn al-Khattab al-Faruq, the Just, had already determined that when a wife contributes to the acquisition of the marital estate, contributes into the family business, she automatically has a legal and equitable claim to the property. This is a concept that came into Western law in the 20th century, actually in the half of the 20th century. So if you contribute and work, you automatically have a claim to that property. So that property cannot be utilized only 100% ownership for husband. So I also provide a solution for that particular circumstance as well, to provide your wife with these rights. So these are things that now my clients and now people can take advantage of my private practice and my expertise in formulating these kinds of solutions. Now we've automated them and provided them online for Muslim Americans to utilize.
Good. No, that's good. We'll come back to you for more questions, but this is a very interesting concept. Well, not really. It's not a concept. It's been it's a solution. But I mean, for people like me and for the newcomers that are curious when it comes to this aspect, because as I said yesterday, when we talk about halal, for the most part, most of us are thinking about the food that we eat and the drinks that we consume, but we don't really think about the halal banking, what you just mentioned. So I would love to come back to you for more questions. Giyad, can you hear me? Can you? Okay. I have no idea. Rashid, can you guys hear him?
Oh, I can hear you guys.
No?
I can.
Okay, so I think the problem with Giyad, I think the problem likely is that you need to take off the microphone and speak directly to the computer, or you still have your computer muted because we cannot hear you. So let's go to Rashid. I'll kick it to you, and then
Sounds good to me,
come
inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. How's everybody doing today? Hope everything's good. Happy Friday. Jum'ah Mubarakah. Okay, so I have it's just a basic presentation PowerPoint that I wanted to share just to make it a little bit easier to follow along my very interesting topic, inshallah. How am I? Can I? Right.
Share your screen, yeah.
How do I?
Just click on the icon, the monitor icon on the bottom that has the red bar, and you can share your screen.
Okay. Let's do this. All right. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes,
all right, perfect.
Up, yes.
Let's start this PowerPoint, this presentation. Okay, come on. Sorry. All right. All right. So let's hold on. Okay. How to financially plan for charitable contributions on an annual basis. So my name is Rashid Ahmed. I've been working with Helping Hand for Relief and Development about 3.5 years now, doing mostly political and grassroots outreach, which meaning going to political offices, local and federal, because I'm in the Virginia, DC, Maryland area, so it makes it very convenient. Brother Ghiath, I've actually seen you at some of your panels at American University. I believe you're a professor there, right? Yeah, I've seen you a few times there. And so I've been with Helping Hand for a few years now, and I've mostly been doing things that relate to grassroots movements, and then eventually ended up turning into political affairs, just because of the nature of where I live, to be honest. Before I was actually with with Helping Hand, I was a banker, a banker at Branch Banking and Co., which is BB&T, for people who don't know. So that was actually a very interesting lesson that I got. I learned more about a traditional American banking system and how it works. And I was very young when I started, didn't really know much, to be honest, didn't know what a credit card was. But Helping Hand in a general sense, I think it's really important to know that, to be honest, what a credit card is and debt, But Helping Hand is a global humanitarian organization. We particularly work internationally. We don't work domestically. We have another organization that works domestically. But a lot of the questions, one of the things that I've really noticed from a lot of our donors is that, one, they don't necessarily plan for their donations and their annual contributions. And two, they don't take full benefit of the tax deductions that they could receive from all their charitable contributions, either as an individual or as a business itself. So I have three individual things that kind of tie into each other that I would like to speak about. Our annual household savings goal, similar to last year, accounting for inflation, adjusting for inflation in terms of the charitable contributions you want to make, because the inflation of the economy clearly doesn't obviously just affect one person or an individual. It affects our entire society. So if the dollar value goes down, then the amount that the charity can even buy, or the organization that you choose, in supplies or material or assistance, obviously will decrease. So this needs to be in addition and incorporated into your annual household savings goal for your Islamically obligated zakat or charitable contributions. If you're a business, you should determine what your past profit projections were and anticipate what your growth will be for this year, and try and use the charities and organizations within your own community to expand your expand your audience base for your own business, and not only that, to get some sort of recognition for the amount of work that your business is doing as well. So there's another aspect that I realize a lot of Muslim halal businesses don't really participate in, and that's matching donations for their employees. And I think that's very important. Matching donations for employees benefits the business itself in a tax and monetary method, as well as perception by your audience as well. If you're able to contribute towards things that your audience would like, majority of the time they'll come back and support your business as well. At least that's been the reaction that we've been getting with Helping Hand and the companies that we participate with and we do matching donations with. A lot of them are big conglomerate organizations, but some of them are just halal stores, or maybe a school with some Islamic school with some teachers who contribute towards Helping Hand, and so on and so forth. Speak with your accountant. Always speak with your accountants, right? They're going to give you the best financial advice when it comes to your individual or your business or your household's finances. What's the most that you can benefit from contributing towards a charity, right? Both in kind and monetarily. Let's continue, right? So obviously, many of us should know this. The Islamic obligation requires us to donate 2.5% of our accumulated wealth, our annual accumulated wealth. Increasing saving budget to incorporate your charitable contributions towards projects you previously chose with your families. So for example, I have a lot of families who come up to me, and brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, they come together and they want to drill a well in a country that they're from, or something or a project that they feel really tied down to, like an orphan support program, or building a masjid in a different country. So plan for those things. A lot of the time it is a lot more beneficial for the organization to receive the funds all at once, rather than just paying towards a project that you want slowly over time. But both are fine and both are good. It's just that emergency relief does happen, right? When we have things like Lebanon, when we have things like the hurricanes during in the Bahamas, Helping Hand and a lot of other Muslim organizations participate within those things. So that also takes away from the funding that we usually get that goes towards general donations, or towards someone's intention might be to go towards a specific project, but they submitted as a general donation, and those funds get reallocated. But if you donate it specifically towards a project, then that's what we use it for. Include any projects or contributions you would like to make into your savings on top of your requirements, right? So, like I said, if you've always wanted to help build a mosque, if you wanted to help,
Right.
an orphanage, then you should plan for that. This is not something that you should just, I'll eventually get to it, or once I have the wealth, I want to be able to do this, that, or the other. Plan for it, save for it. This is our obligation. It's not necessarily something that we just want to
Right.
do. It's something that we need to do, and it's a requirement of us. So, yeah.
Quick question there. How would we ensure, Rashid, how would organizations like yours ensure transparency in a sense that at the end of the year, all of the organizations that are receiving halal donations, what type of financial reports are out there that will allow somebody like me to differentiate between the traditional fundraising approach versus the halal approach to figure out
Absolutely.
what's the difference?
So there's a few different websites that are third-party audits, like charitynavigator.com, for example. They will usually pull financial documents that you have submitted, or will actually conduct their own third-party audit to publicize on their website. And usually they have a certain star rating as for reliability and timelines, and how much of your contributions actually go towards the project. Like, I'm very happy to say that Helping Hand, when I first started 3 years ago, we had 92% of your contributions, or donors' contributions, would go towards our project. That means we only had an 8% overhead cost. That means 92 cents on the dollar goes towards the project, and you can clearly see that. And Charity Navigator outlines that, and this, how much each section or department within Helping Hand or other organizations make, in terms of salaries and expenses, things like that. You can also request. A lot of the times there should be a point person. Like, I'm a lot of the time the point person for some of the donors in my area. They'll request that I send them pictures or some sort of letter, or to follow up with them as to the progress of their own project. And a lot of times you could do that, especially if the project consists of a large donation. A lot of times the charities will want to follow up with you and make sure that you're a consistent donor, as opposed to just a one-time donor. But Charity Navigator is a great tool. I know that there's been a lot of perception in the past about the amount of donations actually go towards projects, with some differing organizations and rumors from the past. But alhamdulillah, I'm glad to say that my organization, we do pretty well. But that's a great question.
Right.
But in terms of the
Definitely.
business profit projections and how a business can get themselves involved with a halal charity, is to get involved with a specific program, like I said, or doing the matching gifts with their employees. Doing all these things can actually increase your business, as I said before. Local government and local community involvement with the charitable things that you want to do, right? Getting volunteers, like if you have a halal grocery store and you have a few things that you want to get rid of, you don't have to just necessarily give that away for free, right? Use those tax benefits, use the charity of your choice, donate those materials. Don't take the loss for your business, right? Also contribute to the well-being of others, right? Don't just let it go to waste.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways that your business can benefit, as opposed to just status and monetarily, right? So I think that's something that everyone should really take advantage of, and stop just trying to have an independent intention for the things that they do, because I don't think that needs to be isolated for you to get the ajr or the benefit or anything like that for donating money, right? Just because I donate money and I take a tax credit for it doesn't mean that my donation is not valid.
Right.
Speak
Right.
with your accountants, right? Always speak with your accountant to make sure that your goals and what your anticipated projections are accurate, and that you're not going to put yourself in any kind of trouble contributing too much donations within a certain year, without protecting your assets. Check out some of Helping Hand's programs. We have plenty of them. We work in over 50 different countries, and we have other sister organization, Ikna Relief, who works domestically if you want to participate domestically. But there's obviously a large amount of Muslim organizations, especially in the DC, Virginia, Maryland area, increasing amount, and it's really exciting to see. So just pick one or two or a few that you like, and get involved and see how you as a household or as an individual can benefit, or as a business owner, what kind of benefits can you get in terms of recognition and, appealing to your audience?
Definitely. There's a question for Mr. Awad here. Giyat, can you say something? Now we cannot hear. I think somewhere
Maybe
on your computer.
maybe Mamadou, like you said, maybe if he just takes the the headphones. Sometimes I take it totally out. Unplug it.
Unplug it from the computer. Unplug it from the computer. Unplug the headphones from the computer and speak directly on the computer.
Not working.
Yeah. So Awad, so there's a interesting question here which asks. I'm sorry. Yeah, Mr. Awad, there's a question that asks if you can disinherit your children and pass it on to your grandchildren Islamically. I don't know why would somebody
I'll respond to that, but also as a follow-up to Brother Rashid, you also have to keep in mind your planned giving and charitable giving in your plan. ShariaWiz.com partnered with Islamic Relief. So Islamic Relief is our default charitable organization. So when you come to do your estate plan on ShariaWiz.com, you're going to be asked about leaving up to 1/3 of your estate to a charity, to your mosque, to Islamic Relief, to Helping Hands, to any charity of your choice, because the Prophet Muhammad Jariya that keeps giving indefinitely. So not only do you want to make your contributions in your lifetime, but you should also include in your end of life planning, in your estate planning, in your will planning to leave for charity. You cannot disinherit your children and pass it to your grandchildren Islamically. The bottom line is, if your children are non-Muslim, if your children renounce Islam, then they become not automatic heirs, and you can have some flexibility. But what you could do in your lifetime, you can transfer assets directly to the grandchildren. That's acceptable. That's a valid way. There is I've been working a lot on the waqf. There's two types of waqf. The waqf al-khayri, the one that all of us talk about, which is the general public waqf that is charitable to the public. You take an asset, you take a stock, you take a property, and you transfer it into the waqf. You transfer title to Allah, and all of the benefits from that property go to charity. But there's also a different type of waqf. It's called al-waqf al-darri, al-waqf al-ahli. And this, you are able to create a waqf for the benefit of your children, for the benefit of your family, not necessarily for a public charity, but for family charity. So in this waqf al-ahli, had permitted the benefit and use of this property to go to your children, irrespective of sex. So it could be equal, gender neutral. You can give one child even more if he's dedicated to study the religious sciences, or you have a disabled child. So there are solutions in the Sharia to address certain circumstances of a family. Now, that the brother asked, I don't know the circumstances why he would want to disinherit his children, because Islamically you're not able to do that.
I think I couldn't have said it better. I agree with you. I think that this is something that a lot of charities and nonprofits and other organizations that Helping Hand even works with, they just started doing their waqf, their endowments, and it's a huge benefit. Because a lot of the time these are increasing value assets. None is, and they benefit the organization so much more than just a general monetary donation, and it goes on for years and years and years and years.
Right, Mr. Awad, as a law expert, so can you think of an instance where the state had to step in to set aside whatever a Muslim brother or Muslim family has decided to do with their will to implement the traditional, you know, larger share for the spouse
See,
or
under
reverse any of those
yeah,
decisions that would made. I guess my question here is the intersection between Sharia law versus the traditional Western American laws that sort of
absolutely. I'll
inhibits
explain that.
another
But
one from
there's
being
also a
implemented.
question about adopted children. Under Islamic law,
Right.
the issue of adoption is that there can be no termination of parental rights. For there to be an adoption under U.S. law, you have to terminate parental rights and new parent takes control. This is direct violation of the Islamic principles that you cannot undermine lineage. Be that as it may, adopted children, while they are not automatic Islamic heirs, they are not considered like your children by operation of Islamic law, they are permitted to be left with a bequest. So if you go to shariawiz.com and you do your estate platform, it's going to specifically ask you, do you have adopted children? And if you answer yes, it's going to tell you you are entitled at your discretion to leave them up to 1/3 of your estate as a bequest. So while they do not inherit automatically, that doesn't mean they don't inherit by and voluntarily. And many of the users that come to our platform with adopted children leave them a bequest as it pertains to the issue about the interplay between law and all that. So under American law, you could disinherit everyone except your wife. So you could disinherit your children and you could leave all your money to your cat, or you can leave all your money to, a charity. But
give it to me, I'll take it.
But you cannot disinherit your wife. So the only time that an Islamic will is going to be challenged, it's going to relate to how much the wife receives. So if the wife is receiving somewhat close to what she would be entitled to under state law, there is no basis to contest the will. The wife has to actually take proactive steps to contest the will. Now, the problem becomes that we at Sharia Wiz have created it so that there will never be a question that a judge would have to interpret or apply Islamic law. Because of the separation of state and church, you cannot simply say, when I die, I want my estate to be distributed according to the Sharia. When you say that, who's going to determine what is the Sharia? The state does not have the authority to interpret religious law. So in Sharia Wiz, the way what we did is we detail with excruciating detail every aspect of the distribution of your estate. So when your will goes to court, the judge has no discretion, or we don't need his opinion. He is simply enforcing the intent and wishes of the decedent. So you will not have an issue.
I have a question.
Rashid, this question.
Yeah, sorry, I was
you.
just curious.
Go ahead,
I know
go ahead,
many times in the United States, polygamy is not allowed, right? But many people obviously still have more than one wife, right? But clearly when they file tax documents, and historically many times it's just filing for one partner, right? So how would someone who has multiple partners be able to?
Again, what we do in Sharia Wiz, we've addressed this issue. We do not promote or support polygamy. No. However, there are people who have a spouse that's overseas and they have a spouse here for whatever reason, or he has a significant other that he considers as a spouse. So we ask you in the process, if you do have another significant other, you leave them a bequest. And a bequest is legitimate. So it's enforceable under the law. The first wife or the legal wife cannot object to it, because as long as the first wife and the legitimate wife is receiving what her entitlement is, and another issue, every Sharia Wiz Islamic will has a state-specific waiver of the wife's elective share and community property Each, it's state specific. We researched every single state, provided the statutes in every single state. So once a wife and a husband sign it, there really not going to be much discussion on validity unless there's an argument that she was forced. So you could leave the second wife or the significant other a bequest up to 1/3.
So, question. And by the way, Giat, call Elizabeth on her phone. She'll put you on speaker. She just sent you a message. Rashid, as a result of COVID, right? There's a lot of conversation around, federal aids and the,
assistance programs
some,
and
packages at the federal level that are supposed to be. How has COVID impacted
the nonprofit world.
your work?
So
Yes, particularly the when we talk about
absolutely.
halal
So like I said, usually I do outreach and marketing or political outreach and grassroots outreach for the most part. So this is actually, for me personally, significantly disrupted my day. Usually I spend over like 30-40 hours a week just in my car traveling, going from business to business or office to office, just managing our donors. So one of the things has been that it's become very difficult to reach out to new donors, because most of the time, this is, as a business, as separate from a nonprofit, a business usually offers a service or a product, but a nonprofit per se is offering good feelings, which is great. Of course it's required of us to contribute towards people, but when you are not in front of the person, you can't relate the emotion to the people. It becomes increasingly more difficult for us to raise the funds and acquire the attention that these people need to get the things that they need to survive, because obviously we're one of the countries that have been very severely impacted, but we also live in a first world, so we have resources, alhamdulillah, but a lot of people don't necessarily have resources. So even when we're talking about collecting donations, in-kind material, medical supplies, clothing, things like that, we're being extremely cautious. Every clothing donation that we collect, we wait 48 hours before we even touch it at minimum, and then we take precautions, and we clean it, and then we pack it and move it. But my region, the DC, Virginia, Maryland region, alhamdulillah, has been able to actually reach its 2020 goal before the end of the year. So it seems as though it's really dependent on the region that you're in and the organization that you're with. But there has been some sort of a slight decrease in attention from people throughout this whole pandemic, just because of the resources being scarce, and people's attention is going to a lot of different things, especially it being an election year and the pandemic and everything that's going on in the world. But we're taking it one step at a time, alhamdulillah, and I think that every organization is as well. But the US government has been assisting us in terms of giving us trainings and programs to make sure that all of our employees and volunteers are safe.
Sure. Mr. Awad, I don't know if you're still here, but I'm sure you saw Elizabeth's point about the right of hereditary inheritance, which is something that I was thinking about as you were speaking. So can you touch a little bit on that point and sort of share with us how is that different from the man's perspective?
Now, I addressed earlier.
The camera is off, but we can hear you.
Yeah, you hear me or no? You hear me, right, Mamadou?
We can hear you, but your camera is just off.
Okay, let me just.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right.
We can hear you. We can hear you fine. Go ahead.
So the bottom line, these solutions, even though I've addressed them from a male perspective, that a male, it's a female making these demands, and also addressing the underlying moral, equitable nature of the Sharia and of the Quranic moral framework. So these solutions that I've discussed, even though I'm addressing them that a male can do them, they're really jointly determined by both spouses. Also, from a female perspective, her entitlement to demand an increase in her mahr is something that we provide on ShariaWiz.com. The wife can also protect her family because her Islamic heirs are than her husband's Islamic heirs. So her entitlement for her family, her parents, her siblings, doesn't have kids. These are issues that are also protected from a female perspective. But again, when we look at the Islamic will, we're looking at a comprehensive, wholesome approach of gender equity. And this is something that both a husband and a wife discuss when they're planning their estate plan. Now, if they're not married and they're single, all of the same rights are available on the Sharia Wiz platform.
How can organizations like the American Halal Council or Helping Hands or other great nonprofits out there, how can they work with somebody like you or other experts out there to make sure that their nonprofits get recipients of?
Interesting here that you asked that question. 9 Sharia Wiz to re-engage and resurrect the charitable giving tradition of Islam. And we have many partners in the not-for-profit and charitable space. Like I said, Islam is our partner. So other organizations we work with also use our platform to encourage their donors that, listen, you could use the Sharia Wiz, do an Islamically compliant will, and leave us a bequest. Leave a bequest for our mosque, leave a bequest for our charitable. So when we talk about the halal ecospace, halal cannot just be one part, just eating halal. It has to be a lifestyle. So Helping Hands, Islamic Relief, these charitable organizations, they work because we're also part of the puzzle as the platform to allow people to comply with their religious obligations when it comes to inheritance and to fulfill their zakat or their sadaqah jariyah by planning it on this platform. So we are all interrelated. We work together. So yes, any organization, any of the users, listeners here is interested to push to get people to leave bequests to their mosque or to their charity, they should just contact us. We will create an account for them. They will have a dashboard on our platform, and we will give them a specific link, and they'll be able to send it to their users so that it will be dedicated to their charity.
Abed,
No,
I'm actually curious to know, because I know that not especially Islamic nonprofits, we have this very misconception that people should be volunteering to do these things, and there shouldn't necessarily be a paycheck associated with so many employees and this, that, and the expenses and whatnot. You have a lot of people that end up coming to your service and expecting for you to do it bi sabilillah. You know,
some people do, but when you go to the platform, it's very cheap. You know, you do the will for $199. You can do your entire will. The estate plan is $250. You get the Islamic will, the healthcare directive, and the general power of attorney. But I do get a lot of questions for free advice, and I do provide a lot of pro bono services, and we do try to help. But in your particular space, by the way, under the waqf, because basically Helping Hands, Islamic Relief, all these organizations are basically a waqf. Exactly. Under Islamic law, the person or the trustee or the manager is entitled to compensation to manage the waqf. You have actually in the fiqh books details about what is a reasonable fee. Because in the past, you may have a private person managing, or you may have the court, the Sharia court in that particular municipality that's responsible for managing. So yes, compensation is fair, but not gouging the principal, not gouging the law. So as long as within reason, you know, this is your livelihood. The waqf is established to give people livelihood, including people who manage and invest in.
Exactly, and you know, I just wanted to bring that up because because there's always this whole perception that, oh, they're doing Islamic work, they're doing it, you know, for the sake of God, bi sabilillah. So why is it that you're taking a portion of this, you know? And I just it always kind of bothers me that people always have this perception of, oh, you know, just because you work for a charity, you have to have the image of the people that are actually receiving the donations. So I think it's very good that people need to understand that.
That's a very good point, Rashid, because that's the question I was going to ask you. So we have 3 minutes left. I'm going to throw out you the last question, and then we'll sort of give everybody time to do closing remarks. Let's talk about unconscious bias here. Are you seeing any of this where you're seeing that your organization is being, uh, you know, external parties are being biased against your organization because it's a Muslim charity, and they're giving more money to another organization that is doing the same thing you're doing, but the only difference is maybe you're doing it better than they are?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that because that we're a Muslim charity that there's not really a way to quantify that. That because you're a Muslim charity, we'd rather give to this charity or that charity. But yes, there is an unconscious bias, right? People usually tend to gravitate towards an organization that usually inhibits an audience or an employment basis of a similar kind, right? Like Helping Hands, majority of their donor basis is Desi, Pakistani, Indian, Bangladesh, etc. Because most of our employees are that way, but alhamdulillah, we're diversifying, we're adding more people and things like that. But as it comes down to an Islamic charity and how Helping Hand markets itself, and like you said, the unconscious bias, what I've done personally is try and do the educational aspect of it. Like, yes, we are Muslims for humanity. Yes, we do majority employ Muslims, and majority help. Our programs help Muslim demographics, but it's not all in one. So we have like our Google ads, our Google location pages. We try and put ourselves out there to the public and announce ourselves to an audience that we normally may not adhere to, so that they can actually see the work that we're doing and understand that we're Muslims for humanity. And the key word here is for humanity.
Definitely. So any closing remarks for you, Rashid, and then we'll close with
yeah, absolutely.
Closing remarks, any thoughts, any. Yeah.
So I wanted to say that, although that we are in this very difficult time of this pandemic and everyone should be staying safe, inshallah, take your time and look at the options and look at the projects that you want to contribute to coming in this 2021 year. Talk to your family, talk to your business partner, your children, involve everybody. This is something that should involve everyone in your inner circle that will be affected by your donation. Like your kids, teach them grassroots, right? Like if they don't grow up doing volunteer work, if they don't grow up contributing money with their own hand into the donation box, it becomes very difficult for them to give up their paycheck when they're making minimum wage or $10 an hour or whatever it is in high school, etc. It all starts young, because inshallah, once maybe Abid can give you better advice than I can for endowments and waqf and things like that. But we want to be able to anticipate those things and grow as a community, but we can't do that if we don't have any grassroots stuff. So train your family, make it a community thing, a communal event, and communal donations within your inner circle.
Sure. Mr. Awad, closing remarks, thoughts?
I want users to understand that the Sharia is not a scary word. People are afraid of it. I refused to change the name of my platform to an Islamic inheritance platform. I called it Sharia Wiz. The Sharia is a methodology, it's an epistemology that produces knowledge. Our community has to engage in a theoretical way to provide solutions to our current American Muslim experience. Sharia Wiz provides you a platform to create a customized state-specific Islamic will and estate plan, and allows you to leave a sadaqah jariyah. We have to all look at our ecosystem as a halal lifestyle, whether it's from our charitable sadaqah jariyah to our eating, to the way we decide how we're going to dissolve our marriage, or how we get married, or how we do commercial transactions. All of this is part of the ethical, moral lifestyle. So that's what I want to leave the user. You have the ability to maintain a moral compass within your religious tradition, because now there's so many available products and spaces. So take advantage of that, because the American Muslim experience is a unique experience that could impact Islam worldwide.
Yeah. Well, I really wanted to thank you guys. Giyad,
We
I
lost it.
apologize.
We
Really
would have
wanted to be
liked
with you.
to have his contribution,
Yeah,
you know, but
yeah. But I would probably suggest for Giyad, perhaps talk to Elizabeth. Maybe they can add you to the next panel. I think there are one or two more for the rest of the day. Maybe we can sort of add you to those panels and sort of get
And
you
thank
hooked
you
that
for
way.
being a great host
But
as
Rashid
well.
and Mr. Awad,
thank you
thank
very
you
much,
guys. Thank
Mamadou.
you for your great thoughts. And
Looking forward to meeting you in person
and I
next
want to
time
invite
I'm
all
in
the
DC.
participants to
Inshallah.
yeah,
All right, you too,
yeah,
Rashid.
visit the Expo sections and network, and
Inshallah.
then we'll see
Yeah,
you throughout the day.
no
Thank you so
problem.
much.
Assalamu
Thank you.
Go see
Okay. All right.
showers.com.
Perfect. Thank
Yalla.
you.
Yalla.
All right.
Salam.